this is Tina right here for week 3 for MPA 545, Conflict Resolution and Labor Negotiations, and led by Dr. Telleria. This week we'll be studying the characteristics of mediators. A quick overview here. We have been asked to look at kind of what are the characteristics or traits of a good leader and locate and discuss an article by Henry Landsberger on page 77 of our text. We've also been asked to locate and discuss another article that cites Landsberger's article. So I'll be discussing Landsberger's article and then another article that I found from Brookmeyer and Sistrunk, about the traits and good characteristics of a mediator. So first of all, in final report on a research project in mediation, Henry Landsberger goes on to discuss his project in which he attempted to develop some tests, psychological tests that he was to give mediators to kind of help figure out what kind of traits or how these mediators present these traits and how well they present these traits in order to be determined a good mediator or what good mediators already possess in these traits. And he said that there is a list of 10 qualities for his testing. So they are originality of ideas, the appropriateness of their sense of humor, the ability to act unobtrusively, a sense of informality in being one of us, and that doesn't mean partiality, it just means being part of the group, the ability to inspire respect as an authority, willingness to put pressure on parties, control over your feelings, being able to maintain a positive attitude towards the mediation process, and to be able to understand the complexities of each of the disputants' understanding of their problem, and then to have an accumulated knowledge of labor relations. After laying out his whole process for testing, Landsberger found that the pure results that he was looking for were difficult to ascertain because of the halo effect, that where a person was kind of rated high in one area, sometimes that led to high ratings in similar areas, and that the traits being tested may be interrelated, so that the test develops were not able to predict success in any particular trait. So for my second article, I chose the effects of perceived ability and impartiality of mediators and time pressure on negotiation by Brookmeyer and Sistrunk. And in their article, they really go into studying the effects of perception of mediators and the abilities of outcomes during the mediation. And they saw that, mediators with a high perception often have favorable outcomes and are seen better by the disputants, and then mediators that are perceived with low abilities and these particular traits kind of don't really fare so well during the negotiations, and they don't have the negotiations kind of tend to have a lower turnout, or the outcomes have a lower turnout than the ones with perceived high abilities. So the particular traits that they studied were perceived impartiality, the ability for success, and then time pressure. And their study showed that a mediator perceived high in the ability for success was more favorable, and mediators that were kind of perceived with this high ability for success often used face-saving techniques, where instead of kind of putting blame or putting ownership on certain bad concessions on the disputants, the mediator kind of took that concession onto themselves. And then also the mediators that ranked high in legitimate and expert power also were seen as more favorable. The study also found that impartiality kind of had a limited effect on the perception of the mediator as high or low, that channeling the ability of the mediator to channel communications was seen a little bit higher than the perceived impartiality. And then finally, they found that time pressures did produce more settlements, but didn't necessarily have an effect on whether or not the disputants saw the mediator as with a high or low ranking. So Sistrunk and Brookmeyer's study kind of also showed that it's very difficult to really pinpoint studies and tests on how mediators are looked at whether or not they'd be good or bad, that we really got to kind of look towards certain characteristics and how they fit into our negotiation process. Thank you again. I hope everybody has a blessed week 4, and I look forward to seeing your presentations.